advocated that women personified the snares of the devil and claimed that women's feelings drive them towards every evil, just as reason impels men to do good. Now, I want you to remember that kind of language: misbegotten male and defective nature. So it's going to come up again. In the 4th century, Ambrose of Milan pronounced that virginity was more pleasing to God, and therefore he wanted priests to stop having intercourse with their wives. And as a number of celibate clergy became prominent, sin was more and more focused in the arena of sex, so that by the Middle Ages it prohibited conjugal relations during the 40 days of Lent, 20 days before Christmas, on feast days of the apostles, other major feasts, every Sunday, and once a woman was pregnant. Monks, bishops, and popes compiled books that cataloged sexual sins and the penances for each, which was given in the confessional. These were known as the penitential rites. A week's penance of fasting on bread and water was meted out for deviating from the monastic position, whereas 10 to 15 years of penance could be imposed for engaging in other unusual forms of sexual pleasure. The penitential rites ended when church authorities discovered that the priest detailed cross-examinations in the confessional were unknowingly instructing the laity about unfamiliar sexual acts. As the centuries passed and urbanization became more prevalent, so did sex outside of marriage and abortion. During and after World War I and II, the use of condoms proliferated, and the people in the pews were regularly subjected to Cold War sermons on the evils of contraception and sex outside of marriage. By the late 1980s, Bible-based denominations aligned themselves with the Roman Catholic Church's new agenda, the evils of homosexuality, an issue the church leaders were sure would be supported by the straight majority in the pews, where they had previously given a deaf ear to sermons on contraception and casual sex outside of marriage. Organizations such as Focus on the Family, the American Family Association, and Traditional Values Coalition, which believe in the literal word of the Bible, have taken on a mission to thwart gays from attaining their civil rights. And when asked to defend the continued use of their hostile, vitriolic national ads against the homosexual community, the leadership of these organizations responded that their ads did not influence people to commit violence against gays, as had been reported in the press. In spite of the reality that the majority of those in the world who have AIDS are heterosexuals, the late Jerry Falwell, founder of the Moral Majority, said that that AIDS is the wrath of a just God against homosexuals. And these are a couple of his other wisdom sayings. The share of the blame for the September 11th terrorist attacks is on the pagans, the feminists, the gays, and the lesbians. Also, he said the Tinky Winky TV characters are secretly gay and morally dangerous. I think he meant the Teletubbies here. Pat Robertson blames gays for most of the world's evils and world catastrophes. Now, this cartoon comes out of a statement that he made, which was, if Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez thinks We are trying to assassinate him. I think we really ought to go ahead and do it. Another erudite comment. Gays and lesbians are self-absorbed hedonists that want to impose their particular sexuality on the rest of America. The Reverend William Wilson of Union Temple Baptist Church preached to his congregation that equality would be problematic. Sisters making more money than brothers is creating problems in families, and that's one of the reasons many of our women are lesbians. Now let me tell you, virtually all professionals in the fields of behavioral research and psychosocial organizations worldwide conclude that there is no evidence that people can learn to be gay. Furthermore, homosexuality is neither a sickness nor a lifestyle choice any more than is heterosexuality. Listen carefully to the almost Aristotelian language in the 1986 Vatican document called The Pastoral Care of the Homosexual Person. It was written by Cardinal Ratzinger, who is now the Pope, who then was the prefect of the Congregation of Faith. It was approved and signed by Pope John Paul II, and it was sent to all Catholic bishops as a papal mandate. Now, a papal mandate is also called a papal bull. Gay Catholics, after hearing the demonic language that was used to describe them, left the church in droves. Ratzinger wrote, quote, homosexuals have a strong tendency ordered towards an intrinsic moral evil, and the inclination itself must be seen as an objective disorder, end of quote. See any relationship there between describing women? The Roman Catholic Church has long held that it is only in marital relationships that the use of the sexual faculty can be morally good. And that is, years ago, it was, and only if it was for procreation and not pleasure. Ratzinger alluded to gays and lesbians working to attain their rights by saying in this same document, quote, neither the church nor society at large should be surprised when other distorted notions and practices gain ground and violent reactions increase. So in effect, what this Pope is saying is that by fighting for our rights, we bring violence upon ourselves. Now I have to ask, was Ratzinger ignorant of or deliberately failing to acknowledge that the early church did perform same-sex marriages and unions? Not many people know this, but published in 1980, 6 years before this Ratzinger document, Yale University historian Dr. John Boswell, who after a 12-year search of Catholic and Orthodox archives, discovered evidence of homosexual marriages. He found them in the records. He found records of same-sex unions in the Vatican, St. Petersburg, Paris, Istanbul, and in the Sinai from the 8th to the 18th century. I want to read you, just for a little levity, I want to read you the first page of a 6-page creative piece of fiction disseminated on the internet. This satirical document, most probably written by a clergy person or a religious, gave to those of us so maligned by this church an opportunity to chuckle and to pray for those who trespass against us. Now, this fictional piece is called Dextera Domini, which means the right hand of the Lord, the Declaration on the Pastoral Care of Left-Handed Persons. The right hand of the Lord has adorned his spotless bride, the church, with many wondrous gifts, not the least of which is the supreme ministry of defending the arsenal of Catholic truth. Having already attacked other perversions, it becomes necessary to speak out with profound disgust regarding yet another aberration. This particular menace has been propagated by those